The rain poured relentlessly over the city that night, turning the glittering streets into mirrors of neon and sorrow. Inside a quiet cafe tucked between two towering buildings, a soaked, shivering man stepped in. His clothes were tattered, his shoes muddy, and his face, though partly hidden beneath a scruffy beard, held a quiet dignity that seemed out of place. The other customers turned away, their conversations dropping to whispers. No one wanted to share a table with a man who looked like he hadn't eaten in days. No one, except for a young waitress named Clara. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of doing good even when no one's watching, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread real, heart-touching stories that remind the world what humanity truly means. Clara noticed the man hesitating near the entrance, dripping water onto the polished floor. The manager frowned and gestured for her to send him away. But something inside her, perhaps the ache of her own struggles, refused to ignore him. She approached softly and said, "Sir, you can take this seat. It's warm near the counter." The man nodded, his eyes full of gratitude. He didn't speak much, only asking for a cup of coffee. When she returned with the steaming cup, he reached into his pocket and found only a few crumpled coins. "It's okay," she whispered quickly, placing her hand on his trembling one. "This one's on me." Clara was no stranger to hardship herself. Working double shifts at the cafe just to cover her mother's medical bills, she had grown used to exhaustion. Every smile she gave came with a quiet weight behind it. Yet, she treated everyone with genuine warmth, no matter how tired or broken she felt. The man noticed this. He watched her serve tables, smile at impatient customers, and even comfort a crying child whose dessert had fallen on the floor. Every small act of kindness radiated from her effortlessly. He sat there for hours, sipping the coffee slowly, almost studying her. Days passed, and the man, whose name was Michael, though no one knew it, kept returning. Always in the same worn coat, always sitting quietly in the corner. Sometimes he would bring a small newspaper, pretending to read. Other times, he would just watch the world move around him, invisible and unnoticed, except by Clara. She would greet him with the same warmth every day, offering refills and kind words. "You're the only one who talks to me here," he said once with a faint smile. "That's because everyone deserves kindness," she replied. What Clara didn't know was that Michael was not just any man. He was the CEO of a global investment company, a billionaire known in business circles for his wealth but criticized in the media for being ruthless and detached. After a near-death experience in a private jet crash a few months earlier, Michael began questioning the emptiness of his life. Surrounded by luxury, fake smiles, and people who worshipped his money rather than him, he wanted to know how the world treated those who had nothing. So, he disguised himself as a homeless man, determined to find out if genuine kindness still existed. What he found in that small cafe changed everything. One evening, Clara's exhaustion finally caught up with her. She stumbled slightly while serving a table, spilling coffee onto a customer's expensive suit. The men yelled at her harshly, calling her names, demanding to see the manager. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stood quietly, apologizing again and again. Michael watched, his jaw tightening as anger burned inside him. Before he could speak, the manager rushed over and scolded Clara publicly. "This is your third mistake this month. One more, and you're done." She nodded silently, holding back tears. After the customer left, Michael approached her gently. "You shouldn't let people talk to you like that," he said. She forced a small smile. "People can say what they want. What matters is how we respond." Then, trying to lighten the moment, she added, "Besides, the world's not that bad. There are still good people out there. You just have to believe it." That night, Michael walked home in the cold rain, her words echoing in his mind. There are still good people out there. A week later, Michael didn't come to the cafe. Nor the next day. Clara found herself worrying. Maybe he was sick. Maybe something had happened. She even saved a piece of pie for him each night, hoping he'd return. When he finally did, he looked different. Clean-shaven, neatly dressed, his eyes clear. But there was still that same warmth when he smiled. "You look familiar," Clara said, confused. "I should," he replied softly. "I've been sitting in that corner for weeks." Then, to everyone's astonishment, a group of well-dressed men entered the cafe. One of them whispered something to the manager, who immediately turned pale. Cameras flashed as reporters began filling the entrance. Clara froze, tray in hand, as she realized what was happening. The man she'd been serving coffee to, the one she'd quietly helped, was standing in the center of the room, now surrounded by attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, "I want to tell you about someone truly remarkable." He turned toward Clara. "This young woman reminded me what it means to be human. When everyone looked away, she saw me. When others judged, she helped. She didn't know who I was or what I had. She just chose kindness." The room went silent. Clara's eyes filled with tears as Michael continued, "I came here pretending to be poor to understand the value of compassion. And I found it, in her." Then, in front of everyone, he handed her a letter. Inside was an offer, a scholarship to the university she'd always dreamed of attending, a fund to pay for her mother's treatment, and a note that simply read, "For your kindness that money could never buy." Clara broke down crying as the cafe erupted in applause. Even the manager who had once scolded her looked away in shame. Michael smiled gently and said, "The world doesn't change through wealth, but through hearts like hers." In the weeks that followed, news of the story spread everywhere. People around the world were moved by the billionaire's transformation and Clara's selfless heart. Michael began a new foundation dedicated to helping service workers and people in need, naming it the Clara Initiative. He often said, "One act of kindness saved me from a life of emptiness." As for Clara, she continued working part-time at the cafe while studying business administration, determined to one day help others the same way she was helped. Months later, Michael visited again. This time, he wasn't pretending. He sat at his usual corner table and watched Clara serve customers with the same radiant kindness. When she noticed him, she smiled brightly and asked, "Coffee, as usual?" He nodded. "Yes. But this time, I'm paying for yours too." They both laughed, and for a moment, the world outside didn't matter. It was just two souls connected by kindness. Before we end this story, if Clara's compassion and Michael's transformation touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Let's keep these stories alive and remind the world that kindness is still the greatest wealth we can give. And before you go, we'd love to hear from you. What did you feel when Clara chose kindness over judgment? Comment below with your thoughts and let's make the world a little kinder, one story at a time.